Welcome to Sports Point of View, your source for all things sports, all the angles, and none of the fluff. I'm Joanna Rosali Bergang. Today, we are breaking down what could be a turning point for the Arizona Cardinals, the 2025 NFL draft class for the Cardinals. And from top round talent to late round sleepers, we'll cover who the Cardinals picked, why they were picked, and how they fit into the vision for the future for this Arizona Cardinals. Which rookie could make an instant impact this season and who might surprise us down the line. We've got the analysis, we've got the grades, the hot takes, and maybe even a little bit of hope for the future of Cardinals football. We shall see. And joining us today is Ed Smith, host of Easy Sports Talk radio show and podcast. Someone who knows the game of football through and through. Ed, welcome to Sports Point of View. Thank you for joining me today. And you know the game of football, being a football player yourself.
Thank you, Joe. Always a pleasure to be on with you. And yeah, it's funny with the Cardinals for so many years. We do the Believe in the Cardinals podcast in addition to the Easy Sports Talk show. Myself and Javon Adams, my brother and partner, and we had to dive deep into what the Cardinals did. And then I did some other podcasts and stuff like that. And the more I look, the more I am excited for the Cardinals as well. I'm looking forward to diving into this with you. And for your listeners, I think there's finally, after all the years and we've gone through some coaches, some good and some bad. We had the 1 year experiment. We had Cliff Kingsbury, and the it was like a ship just floating in deep waters. And it finally seems with Austin Fort and Gannon that this ship has a direction. It's got a philosophy. They're not just being guided by the sun sets here, so that must be east or west. Or it feels like they actually have something in hand telling them where to go. And I think it's evident in this draft, but definitely looking forward to chopping this one up with you.
You know what? I'm excited and I have so many questions and so many hot takes I want to get from you. And I couldn't think of a much better person to bring on to talk Cardinals football than you. And I am ready to get into it if you are, because the Bergang wants and it's eager to know where these Cardinals are headed this season.
Well, I'll tell you the thing that was most encouraging. Well, there's been several things that have been encouraging for me. Where I got my first encouragement, if let's go back in time here just a couple of years. Cardinals, we had new GM, new coach, and they came in, and the first thing they did, Joe, they stripped this team down to the bone by not, they didn't re-sign any of our current free agents that we thought they should. I wish I had the list of them that they let kind of just go. It was almost like Buda Baker was the only person they kept around. Everybody else, they just let them go. And I figured over the first, okay, we got an offseason coming up. They're going to go out and spend some of that money on free agency. No, they went out and signed guys, not big name guys, but just some guys to 1 and 2 year contracts. So they did that. That's first year. The second year, I thought, okay, now is when they're going to open up the purse. We're going to go get some free agents. They didn't do it again. And what they did is they stripped it down, kind of cleaned it up, and didn't immediately jump out there and just start bringing guys in, especially old guys and stuff like that. They didn't do that. So we finally get to this year, and during the offseason, the first encouraging thing for me, we go out and we get a sweat from the Eagles, Super Bowl pedigree, stuff like that. And they spend some money on him. You go get a Calais Campbell. We're not getting Calais Campbell in his prime, but this is a Calais Campbell who still has a little left in the tank, but he can be so valuable for some of these young defensive guys, especially on the defensive line. You go get him, spend some money in other places. Then we get to the draft, and they're filling holes, and they're doing different things. And it's like, wow, it actually looks like they know what they're doing. But the first encouraging thing for me was the fact that they went out, finally, after the first couple off seasons, they went out and they started spending money, but they've done it wisely, in my opinion. They didn't just go get, because we got the cap space, let's just go dump a whole bunch of money into XYZ. Now, no offense for all the people fans out there, like we tend to go get old stars like an Emmitt Smith, like a JJ Watt when he's way past his expiration. Still good, but he's not great JJ Watt from Houston. They've done that in the past. This time we've got a couple of young guys in their prime, and I say you go out and get class, but that's an exception right there for me. And then in the draft, they targeted some positions, targeted some needs, and they actually went after them. And I know we're going to jump into their draft, what they did there, but I was really excited about how they've handled their business so far. And if you don't mind, when we get to the end of the show, we obviously always have to talk about what might concern us a little bit. I'd be interested to find out what
Course.
concerns you. So, but in the meantime, like I said, it's the off season. Everybody's winning. I saw some of the draft grades. Cardinals got B's, B minuses, but I mean, I thought they did exceptionally well, especially with one pick in particular. But you go ahead and run us. I know we'll talk about it.
Most definitely. You and I are always so in tune, and we can just jump on and you already know what I'm talking about without even giving you a heads up of what we're talking about, which is why I love, talking sports and football with you. But you mentioned it, the NFL draft, and not only the draft, but the Arizona Cardinals seems to have, getting everyone curious and very excited for what's ahead, which we'll dive into that a little bit deeper into the show. But with the NFL, I want to go ahead. The NFL draft, excuse me. I want to recap. I'm just gonna, dive in here a little bit, and then I'll let you jump on.
Oh yeah.
So the Cardinals made solid picks in the NFL draft, which you just mentioned, and a focus on rebuilding their defensive line, which is much needed. And they picked up a defensive tackle in Walter Nolan from Ole Miss in the first round of the 2025 NFL draft, a notable addition to the team roster, it seems, with quickness and ability. There was another guy, the cornerback, which they added, Will Johnson from Michigan, which was a concern for many teams, but the Arizona Cardinals decided to go ahead and take a chance, and he seems to be a pretty good prospect. Um, and another pick that I'll mention here for the Arizona Cardinals, it's edge rusher Jordan Burch. These are defensive additions, and that seems to can help the team bounce back after a rocky season. The expectations falling short, not making it so much into the postseason run. Give me your report on the NFL draft for the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, first I thought with Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss in the first round, great pick. I mean, and they went to a school in the SEC. He's proven to be playing against high competition in the SEC. So I thought that was a great pick, and it wasn't one of those reaches. It was one of those picks that they had a kind of a target on him and that particular position, especially like I said, when you bring Calais and some of the other veterans that they had in, he'll be a great addition to that defensive line and might not have to start right away. He's going to be a guy that's going to get playing time. The beautiful thing about football, it's not like baseball where you got a starting nine and those guys have to go out and, you can't take them out. If you do, you don't get them out for the rest of the game. You pitch it for somebody, he's done. Now, football, you can have these young guys learning on the fly a little bit, in and out, situationally, stuff like that. He's going to have an opportunity, especially, I guarantee you, Joe, these guys, the defensive line coach, he's going to introduce Calais to all these dudes in the first meeting and say, when Calais talks, you listen. So right off the bat, that was a great pick. I thought the second pick, Will Johnson at number 47 in the second round, cornerback out of Michigan, he could be the steal of the draft. Until he got hurt last year, he was projected to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft, and he had some knee issues. So, okay, everybody backs off a little bit. But what happens? The Cardinals get him at pick number 47. Now, what they can do is they can bring him along slowly, Joe. They don't have to rush him out there. They had some other picks. We got free agency, still got the summer to get through. They can bring some other guys into that defensive second into the secondary room. But what you can do with Will, bring him along slowly. You don't have to rush him out there. You let that knee get as healthy as it possibly can get. Now you got a young man that you brought. He's going to be a little jaded because he obviously felt he should have been a first round pick, but he knows his circumstances. All the teams that passed on him, he's going to make them pay. That's going to be his mentality. And you got this young man in the second round, pick 47. That could be the stand. And all the talking heads, that's what they've been, kind of talking about. Anytime they talk about the Cardinals draft, not the first round pick, they always bring up Johnson as he actually could be the steal of the draft because he should have been a first round pick, but they got him with pick 47. So I feel very good about that. And the Cardinals, I'll tell you one thing, and then I'll set up. I thought the Cardinals, after the first round, because their first pick, they made it and they sat around like everybody else. Me and Jay and I were getting ready. We had to get ready for rounds 2 and 3, and then 4 through 7, what that was. I had a premonition. I was like, you know what? After the first day, the Cardinals are going to probably be wheeling and dealing, meaning we got 6 more picks. We can turn that into 8 or 9 or 10 if we trade up and trade down. You know what they did? They quietly just sat there and made their picks, probably had all the guys on their board. If we don't get this guy, we can get this one. We're not going to do anything stupid by mortgaging our future by giving up future picks or giving up more to get this. And they sat there and it looked like they actually got the picks that they wanted or close to it, made 7 selections, and lo and behold, 6 of them are on the defensive side. So what does that tell you? That means they had a focus of, we're going to beef this side up. We think our offense is pretty good, and I know we got to do some things with our offensive line, and we made the pick with the big wide receiver last year. We got that side covered, I think. And I like the fact that it seems like they were on a mission to get this defense as strong as it can be and then go from there. And it's like baby steps. And I've done a couple other podcasts and talked to some people in our division as well. One of them was a Rams talk. And he actually told me, he's like, I'm scared by what you guys did. And I was like, well, you probably should be. It looked like I said, for the first time in a while, it looks like we got a plan and looks like they're executing it. And the great part, Joe, is it all looks good on paper, right? Now we just got to get through the offseason. We got to, we'll continue to add, bring free agents in, do that. And then we got to get through training camp. And they don't play a lot. None of the stars, nobody plays in training camp or preseason anymore. But then we got to get to the first part of that season and we got to see what we actually have. But right now, it appears that the Cardinals they've cracked the seal on this, I guess, level of mediocrity that we've had for quite a while here. And it looks like not just you and I, but others around the league are noticing as well. The Cardinals actually looks like they know what they're doing, and they could be a load to handle this coming year and moving forward.
Yeah, you mentioned one thing there, which was pivotal for me. Looking to see how the Cardinals will perform this season, and you nailed it when you said they look good on paper.
Yeah.
Because we've had this before. They look good on paper. They should perform. You should have good outcomes and make it to the postseason and possibly even the Super Bowl expectation there. And then, being Arizona fans that we are, we end up getting disappointed and our hearts broken. So that's for me is the major concern, that you look good on paper and then not so much when it comes game time or the second half of the season, where the Cardinals tend to perform well the first half of the season. They tend to get those wins, but then the wheels fall off. The defensiveness focus is one of the things which I was happy to see for the Cardinals in this NFL draft, like you mentioned. And another thing that surprised me, is that they didn't wheel and deal, like you said, which is
Mhm.
what they tend to do a lot in draft after draft. And not only the Arizona, not only the Cardinals here in Phoenix or in Arizona, but other teams as well tend to do that. And that actually caught me by surprise, but I was proud that they actually stuck to what they've, their picks, and didn't do any craziness with dealing or anything like that, or trades. Um, but I want to go ahead and get a little bit deeper into the 2025 season. And before we get deeper into like expectations or anything like that down the line, there's one concern and one of the challenges that you and I have talked about in the past. I have been very vocal about it, and you're nodding your head, so I think you know where I'm headed with this. Is Kyler Murray, Arizona Cardinals quarterback? Is this his last chance for a future with the Arizona Cardinals? What needs to change here with Kyler Murray? We one of the things that we have lacked seen from him is that consistency. The cards seem to be set in keeping him despite the challenges, and amidst the lucrative contract extension that he also received as a former number one, overall pick in the draft. Um, Several years ago, and signed a 5-year deal of 230 plus $1 million. So talk to me, Ed. What, Kyler Murray situation what can we make out of that?
Joe, it is amazing how we haven't, and you and I, just for your audience, so they know, you and I, we haven't talked in quite a bit because life happens and stuff like that.
Right.
And you reached out, we got back in touch earlier this week. You were this week. You're like, hey, can you jump on with me? I was like, yeah. We didn't do like a whole prep or send run sheets and all that kind of stuff. This is raw, and the fact that we like, if anybody's watching, we are here. We are right
Yeah.
here because you started on the subject, and I was like, I know where she's going, and that's exactly where. I mean, it's like we share one heart, I guess, because as I
That
was
happens when you
talking
know each other
earlier,
for over a dozen years, right?
yeah, and it's it's like when you were talking about when I said earlier about the issue, the one thing that I would like to talk about, that's exactly, and you knew exactly what I was talking about.
Yep.
For me, Kyler Murray is the biggest issue that the Cardinals either have to come to grips with, that he is not their franchise quarterback, or we're going to make this work somehow, some way. And I always, Jay laughs with me all the time, because I always, in the middle of our show when we're talking about Kyler, I always like to stop and remind him, hey Jay, we have a short quarterback. And there's flaws to being a short quarterback. So there's certain things that Kyler cannot do that Josh Allen, that
Mm.
Mahomes, that Burrow, certain quarterbacks can. Kyler has an issue with seeing over the middle of the field because he is short. You're five, they stretch him out a little bit. I'm not even going to say what he is. He's 5 something. He's got dudes that are 6'5" and above as offensive linemen. He's constantly in the shotgun because he doesn't like to be in the under center, because if you're under center, you have to turn and face away, then come back and look. He likes shotgun because he can keep his eyes down the field. Problem is, the
Mhm.
trees are still there in front of you. So he always has an issue with not being able to see the entirety of the field. He makes up for it by scrambling every now and then, or throwing a lot of balls east and west and not north and south. Okay. Well, we're at a point now where you've got an amazing weapon on the outside in Marvin Harrison Jr., who can get down the field. You can't constantly be just throwing them the ball down the sidelines. You have to utilize him and Trey McBride over the middle. And Trey got his fair share, this year as a tight end. But, no touchdowns till the very end. But a lot of that is because you got to be able to see over the middle of the field. That's where, especially when you're jammed down in the red zone, everything is happening over the middle of the field. You're not throwing down the sidelines. So the issue with Kyler is he's going to have to start overcoming, in my opinion, some of his uncomfortableness with, one, getting under center so he can utilize play action more. The other is it's almost like he stopped running a little bit. And I don't know whether he was a little fearful of it because of what's out there, or he told himself he's going to try to be more pocket guy. Problem is, you can't be pocket guy when you're five and some chains and you can't see
Mm-mm.
through everything. So, with that being said, this is an extremely important year for him. Gannon and Ossenfort and all those who make the decisions, I'm sure they're looking at him and they're talking to him and they're telling them what they want to see and what he needs to improve on and how we're going to take this new approach and this is what we're going to. And it's now going to be up to Kyler to go to that next level. You see these quarterbacks that are getting these big deals, Joe. Most of them are
Yep.
making the playoffs every year, and they're putting up astronomical numbers. You look at Kyler's numbers, and with his abilities, he either have the numbers like Lamar Jackson, but with either running and throwing, or if you're going to be supposedly throwing the ball all over the place, we need to see more of Mahomes and Josh Allen. We're not seeing that. So this is crucial. This year is crucial for him. He's going to, because here's the other thing to remember, Joe. He is not a draft pick of Awesome Fort or Gannon. And people don't
Right.
that I when I during my I played my years in the NFL. I also played a bunch of years as a freshly drafted out of high school hot prospect with the Chicago White Sox. I played 9 years of professional baseball. There's an old saying we used to when guys used to reach a certain, it's like once a prospect, now a suspect. When I got traded from the White Sox to the Brewers, and all of a sudden I was still same talent, same everything, but I wasn't a product of the Brewers. The Brewers had their own draft picks that they wanted to see succeed, and because those were priority to them. Same thing goes
Right.
for Kyler Murray. At this point, Austin Ford didn't invest in you. Gannon didn't invest in you. They would love for you to shine and be their franchise quarterback. But if you're not going to get out there and not just show us what you can do physically, but mentally be the face of this organization, lead us. Whenever there's an issue, you should be front and forward. And when you think of the Kansas City Chiefs, first thing comes to your mind, Mahomes.
Right.
Anything going wrong in that locker room, club, what first thing you think, you can envision him team meeting or whatever, walking through the locker room, talking to every guy. Tom Brady, same thing. Josh Allen, doggone well, when something is going down, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, you can imagine, you think of him, and you're thinking something's going haywire in here. He's sitting over in the corner locker with his headphones on, head down, just, and it's like, if you're going to accept all that money as the franchise quarterback, you doggone well better take on all the other responsibilities. And I'm not quite sure he's there. So this is a huge year for him. In my opinion, Joe, this year is put up or shut up, because you're going to get to a point where they will start shopping him around, and rightfully so. If, say we walk in here with all the tools and everything we got, and we pull out another 8-9 or 9-8, and miss the playoffs, they're going to start looking to figure out, hey, what do we have to do to improve our draft stock to maybe step up and get another quarterback in there, or at the very least get somebody to compete with him, because he's very comfortable right now. He might be a guy you have to make uncomfortable to get the best out of him. We don't know that yet. We'll see. But yeah, right, you're spot on. In my opinion, I'm thinking we sharing it. He is the biggest issue in terms of what the biggest question. I won't say issue. He's the biggest question of all, and that should not be your situation. Not when you pay that much money to a quarterback. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of
Ton of
pennies, a
money.
lot of dollars. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I thought I would mention it because come on, 5 years, 200 over $230 million.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, you
To
have
sit at
to,
home and
pr-
to
you
sit at
know,
home and play
produce.
video games. Yeah.
So we're gonna you mentioned some things there talking Kyler Murray, which I'll mention at the end of our conversation here. Something I just want to you know gossip with you about. You can say, um, but yeah, that's a major challenge, and the Cardinals have not made the postseason or the playoffs. I should say. I'm in baseball talk right now. The playoffs in 5 years, in 5 seasons now. So
Yeah.
I think I agree with you that this is you either you make it or you're being shipped out who knows where, or you may not even be signed with the team. Exactly, those are the issues that you mentioned that have, for me, have been an issue with Kyler, and I don't I don't see him being a star quarterback or the franchise quarterback, and I don't see much progress from him year after year. And I think with the key pieces, with the tools that they have provided him now going into this new season, you can see that they're trying to build around him and to help him succeed. And if he does not, accomplish that, I think this is his last season with the Arizona Cardinals, and especially because you said he's not a product of Gannon and I forgot his other name right now that you mentioned, but
Awesome for it. Yeah.
Austin Ford, thank you. And that, yeah, you are right now drawing at the last straw.
And the other thing you have to take into account is all timing as well, Joe. The right now, in my opinion, the San Francisco 49ers, they're going to be down a little bit. They lost a ton of guys in free agency. You're paying a quarterback, probably a B minus quarterback. You're in when it's all said and done, he's going to get somewhere near A money, which is going to restrict you. Man, we're talking about Purdy. And all respect to him, you get the money that you think you can get. But they're paying him anywhere 45, 50, 55, whatever it is. That's going to keep them down for a little bit. They've already had the attrition of getting rid of a couple of free agents, guys that would probably have loved to have kept, but those guys have to move on when you have to pay your quarterback. The Seattle, we never know what we're going to get from them. They bring Sam Darnold in, but we have no idea. They've gotten rid of more than they brought in, but they also made a couple key moves with going to get a Milrow and stuff like that. So, but they're going to be more of a project. This is the time to strike. The Rams are the team in front of you. You seem to have their number from time to time. If not, I say if not now, when within the division, because San Fran is not going to be down for long. I guarantee you, they'll figure it out. Seattle always can jump up and surprise you. This is the time where it's almost like everybody else has got kryptonite in their lunch bags and they don't know it. And we're strong. We're walking around. This is the time. Take advantage of it because you don't know how long some of these other teams are going to be trying to figure it out. You got to take advantage of it now. And I think and the other thing is Fort and Gannon, they know they're on a time clock. They've talked to management. They've given the 5-year plan. And management has said, go ahead, do your thing. I know you're going to have to strip it down first. We're going to take those baby steps. I see you guys are heading in the right direction. Right direction only lasts so long. They haven't missed the playoffs for 5 years, but they've missed them their first 2, whatever it is. And you can't continue that for too long until management says, or ownership, says, you know what? I know about the 5-year plan, but we're now in year 5 and 6, and it doesn't look like and they're not going down. I guarantee you, they're not going down with somebody else's quarterback. If he's not going to show us that he can do it and carry us, they're like, look, hey, we got to go do something else because otherwise we're going to be looking for other jobs and with other organizations. So, Kyler, come on in this meeting room. We need to sit down and talk. And I'm sure they've laid it out for him. This is what we need. This is what we need to see. We need more of this from you. We need a little less of this from you. And if message is received, we're all good. We start doing the things we're supposed to be doing. But they're not going to sit around forever and wait for him to figure it out. It's been too long. It's amazing how fast time flies with these quarterbacks and stuff like that. It seems like he's just got here, but he's been here a bunch of years already into that second contract.
Yeah, and one of the things before we move out of the QB talk, there's been a lot of rumblings, a lot of things that have been said about Kyler and locker room and plays and presence and all of the sort. So there's been a lot of controversy around that as well, and some of that you brought up here. What if not Kyler Murray? What type of quarterback that you see that the Arizona Cardinals needs for this franchise?
Well, I don't begin to jump into other people's minds like Austin Fort and Gannon, and then we have to remember the offensive coordinator. He's one Petzing, I think it is. He's the one who's going to take the brunt of stuff. If defense is playing great but we just can't get our offense to do this, what are you doing with Kyler Murray over there? He's the one who's going to take the brunt of the hit as well. I guarantee you, like if every offensive coordinator, if you know how Frankenstein was put together piece by piece, that type of thing,
Mhm.
every one of them would start with, I want my quarterback to be at least this tall. So I would say, give me somebody who's 6'1", minimum 6'1". If you can get anywhere near 6'3", 6'4", that is beautiful. A little mobility. You don't have to be able to run out the building like Lamar Jackson, but be evasive like a Burrow, like a Mahomes, can in the pocket dance around. When he wants to get you 5 or 10, he can just scoot out and get it and get down, that type of thing. If you had to go the other way with Josh Allen, although those don't last as long because they're constantly taking hits and stuff like that, but maybe a bruiser like him. But Josh Allen is so big, so powerful, big arm, et cetera, et cetera. What you'd like is a little bit of a hybrid if you could. But in my opinion, it all starts with the size. And if here's the thing, Joe, if Kyler Murray was 6 feet tall, that dude would be one of the greatest and you'd also have to have the attitude and the mindset and everything, because I don't think he's a leader of men. I think he's a dude that has always had the most incredible talent in the world, and he just gets out there and does his thing, doesn't want to lead. He's so impressive with his physical nature, especially in college because you're playing against inferior competition, that it was always so easy for him. Everything was easy. And he didn't have to either work at it, and he didn't have to lead the guys because all he had to do was get out there and scramble for 80 and boom, everybody's like, that's Kyler Murray. No, So I think, with him being shorter, he's always going to have that mark on him. I just, like I said, my thing, where he lacks for me, he lacks in size, he lacks in leadership, he lacks in attention to detail. I could go on and on about some like attention to detail and with quarterbacks. They got to know the thing about quarterbacks. They got to know what everybody on their side of the field is doing as well as the other side. I think
On both
sometimes
sides.
Kyler knows exactly what. Yeah, Kyler knows what our 11 are supposed to do, but he's not totally prepared to the point where he can manipulate the other side to make them do what he wants them to do. That's a Peyton Manning or Tom Brady. They used to go up,
Yeah.
dummy call. They used to actually force the defense's hand. Show me what you got. Turn your cards over, and then I got every answer, and I'm gonna do this to match that. He strikes me as a guy who's still just, we call the play, we go up there, I see what the initial defense is, snapping the ball, and all of a sudden it changes, and sometimes it surprises him. He's not ready for every single element or every single scenario that can happen. And that's because he's always had the greatest ability in the world. But the problem is when you're playing with the best of the best of the best, the greatest athletes
Doesn't
in
work
the
in the
world out there,
NFL.
and it doesn't work in the NFL. It doesn't.
Do have one request, Ed. I don't know that
Yeah.
this will ever happen. It's probably beyond my wildest dreams. You know who I'm a fan of. Some people may know this, audience wise, some may not, but you'll know where I'm headed here. Is it possible we can get Tom Brady out of retirement and play for the Arizona Cardinals for one season and go to the playoffs and possibly the Super Bowl? Is that too much to ask
I
for?
think I think his papers are already in. I think he's more interested in leading them Raiders over there. He's got, man, all the cushy job. He's making 34 million just talking football on Sundays. He's also part owner of the Raiders, helping them mold the organization. I mean, golly, if he whatever he wanted to do, he could open up a football, like a quarterback camp. I mean,
Anything.
he could do whatever he wanted to do. And he probably could say, hey, you guys need me on Sunday Cardinals, I'll be there. Give me, 5 minutes before the game. I'll show up, and he could probably lead us to at least a couple victories.
Yeah, he just does stuff some of that rust, and he'll be good to go. It's fine,
Man,
not a lot to ask for, right, Ed?
some people just
You just
have
have
life
it or
is
you
just
don't.
so, yeah, some people life is just so tough on them. Tom, he's just lived such a tough and horrible life, since he, became one of the greatest quarterbacks, if not the greatest ever, which he is.
Right. Mhm.
Until somebody dethrones him. But yeah, I mean, everything works for that man. Hair never looks out of place, nothing.
No wrinkles. He looks like he's like 24
Oh my, it
and
must be all that
yeah,
avocado. What is it? Avocado shakes or whatever
no, I have no idea.
whatever.
I'm
Yeah,
yeah.
green shake, something like that. I don't
Goodness
know.
gracious, seriously. Putting us to shame.
Yeah,
So
I'm
we
still
talked
older than him, so
so we talked some challenges here with the QB situation. I want to go ahead and just talk some more challenges or other challenges that the Cardinals could possibly need addressed go for this 2025 season. Are they pretty much as you can say set in what their needs are for the 25 season, or is there still something that they need to work on?
the one thing I haven't done is obviously I saw scoped the draft out. I haven't taken a look at available free agents, not just free agents that are out there, veterans, but I didn't see what they did as far as free agents, non-drafted guys. That's always important because, especially now when they let more guys stay on your practice squads and stuff like that, it's going to be important for them to pack the roster with some young talent, and from there you just got to get lucky and find a diamond in the rough every now and then. But right now we are at that stage, Joe, where all the hard work or all the busy work is done. Now it's going to be, we got to get through these OTAs, rookie mini camps. You got to get the whole teams together for real mini camps, and it's all dress rehearsal now, because even when we get to training camp, nobody plays in the preseason, and I can't tell you how much I hate that.
So do
One,
I.
because nobody hits during the weeks. We used to have two a days, and I don't want to be that old dude. Get up on, but we used to have two a days.
I
I
have
mean,
two a
we
days.
started camp. Yeah, we started camps in the first and second weeks of July, and we had 2 weeks of full padded practices twice a day. All right, and I'm not joking. I'm talking we'd hit in the
I
morning,
remember
go
that.
get some lunch, go study, get a quick nap, go down the hill or wherever you were, suit up again, and let's do it again in extreme conditions. Right now, they hit on a Monday and they're not able to. They and I'm talking one practice. If they and it's all thud. It's like no hard. No, they hit on Monday. They can't even put the pads on. I'm not saying hit. They can't even put the pads on again until Wednesday. So and it's only once a day. And I'm not saying you
Mhm.
get out there and abuse your bodies, but what we've seen now, especially because teams are taking the preseason games, they're not playing any of their starters. Nobody. The first month of the season has literally become like preseason football, because your starters are just getting out there for the first time. They don't have all their wind, and the play is sloppy. It's not. By the time you get into October, that's when everybody's rounding into shape. So in saying that, the hardest part of the job, as far as GM, is done. I say now you got to go get those remaining free agents and stuff like that. All turns on to the coaching staff now, and the OTA training staff. Oh my God, this is where they shine. Your strength and conditioning coaches, because you're going to get some of these guys in there, and some of these guys are college strong. There's a difference between college strong and NFL
Mhm.
strong. I'm here
Yeah.
to tell you, I've been in those weight rooms, and I know what college guys do and how they throw the weights around, and then you get them into a real NFL training room, weight room. It's like, whoa, I need a spot. I need a spot, So you're gonna have to get them bigger. You're gonna get them bigger. Try to get them faster. You make them stronger. So that's the goal of the staff between now and we're here in May, early May, and late August, when training camp is winding down and these guys are licking all their wounds and stuff like that, and we're getting ready for the regular season. But you'll get a lot of your younger guys playing in the preseason, so they will get some experience. The problem with that experience, Joe, is it's experience against guys like themselves, and it's experience at the preseason tempo. I never
Right.
forget my first preseason in the NFL. I thought, oh my God, that was unbelievable. And then I got to my first real regular season game. And I was like, holy, oh my God. It
I can
turns up
imagine.
and everything notches up. So these guys are going to have to learn the tempo of the game at that level but they'll get a little bit of taste of it. But it's almost like eating or drinking a Diet Coke instead of the real Coke once the regular
Mm,
season starts. But every lesson can be a learning lesson. So to answer your question in a long way, we don't know what the Cardinals' problems are going to be until they show themselves, because we're not going to see a whole bunch of anything between now and the start of the regular season. We'll see some training camp. We'll see some one-on-ones. They'll have some group joint practices against other teams. Even those are monitored, where they blow the whistle because they don't want guys out there killing each other. They don't want fights. They don't want this. They don't want that. So until we get till the rubber hits the road, week one in the NFL, and then even in saying that, we won't know the true Cardinals team. And I say that for just the Cardinals, not just the Cardinals, for every team. You won't know that the true
mm.
input your team's name until we get roughly 3 weeks, 4 weeks into the regular season. But in the meantime, the Cardinals have had a successful offseason. They've impressed me. I'm sure they've impressed a bunch of others. It looks good on paper, and all you can do is what, Joe, at this point? I'm going to cross them and show them to you. All you can do is cross your fingers and them toes and hope that we got some diamonds in these roughs and some guys that are ready to go when it's time to put up or shut up for 17 weeks.
Right. That's all you can hope for. And you just gave me the perfect transition with that. They look good. They've made some great moves this offseason, and they've, been the talk of a lot of people. So this drives me more into the long term. You know, f- it seems like the Cardinals have been one of the most intriguing teams going into the 2025 season. And does much more need to happen? I know you just mentioned we really won't know until we get into the 3 weeks into the season what type of team they are. So before that, we can talk serious playoff contention and maybe even a threat not only to the division but league wise.
But I think everybody's keeping their eye on the Cardinals, know that they're not a laughing stock at all. I think the biggest issue that we'll have is, what does our offense look like and what does Kyler Murray look like moving forward? He doesn't know it, but he might be auditioning for 10 or 15 other teams, depending on how he comes out, plays, his attitude, coachability. You run down the list of things. We've seen him bow out of games. I remember a couple years ago, over playing the Rams at the end of the season, and they were getting their
Mm,
tails mollywopped. And they were like, "Hey, don't you want to go back in?" "No, I'm good. I'm good."
I
That's
remember
not a
that.
good
I was
sign.
not
Yes,
happy.
that's not a good sign for a quarterback. We've seen him throw interceptions and throw the hands up like, "What are you doing?" Like showing his receivers up. You don't do that. We've seen him walk off a field and MF his head coach. Basically, I mean, set the, come
Ugly.
on, seriously? So,
And
man,
on live, nationwide television,
yeah,
with
yeah.
games, that's not a vision you wanna see, an impression you wanna have, not only among your teammates, your just NFL wide and fan base and everything, and
So my
yeah.
biggest question, I think a lot of people, if you're a devout Cardinal fan and you've sold out to Kyler like, he's great here, they don't want to hear this. So they'll, poo-poo it. But in my opinion, like I said, the clock is ticking and we need to see more from him. And I guarantee you, within the walls of that the facilities, they're having conversations and they're bracing for what might have to be done if this year is not. And I'll ask you this, Joe. What will be your? I will say this. I'll start by before I ask you the question. I just mentioned to you earlier. It's we were talking offline. Was it crawl, walk, run? Right.
Right.
Cardinals haven't been in the playoffs for 5 years. We can't expect them like all of a sudden. Well, this is a Super Bowl team. No, no. I would say a team that should be pushing hard should definitely be a playoff team if we're heading in the right direction. Anybody who thinks this is a Super Bowl season, Super Bowl team, you obviously haven't been watching other teams around the league to see what what they have and how they've been doing it. But what would your ceiling be for this team, and what would your seller be? Like if the worst and the best possible outcomes for this team this year.
That is a wonderful question, Ed. Oh my goodness, you're putting me in the hot seat here. But for me,
I
like the
get
best the Cardinals can do, I have no filter when it comes to this. I'll speak it, and which is why I love doing these shows and having that just be raw and telling it like it is. So
yeah,
with my sports point of view with the Arizona Cardinals is, I would love to see them make a playoff push. Get in the playoffs. If it's the wild card, okay, great. Just have that, you know, foot in the door, more in than out. Um, that's would be for, like if they can do that, they'll be wonderful. And that means that Kyler Murray put in the work. He's doing what he needs to, and not only him, but also he has a team that's supporting him, behind him, and they're
yeah.
willing to go the distance with him. That would speak volumes if that's able to happen. Should the Cardinals not make it to the playoffs, um, I I don't know because I would say they need to be above 500. They need to win more than
Definitely.
half the games, even if they don't make it to the playoffs. If you fall short of that, I don't want to see no half or maybe one game above 500 or more than half. Yeah, you need to give me a little bit more than that. I
Yeah.
would say give me you know
10
70%. Give
wins.
me a C.
Yeah.
You know, So if that doesn't happen, then I've been vocal about this, and I'm glad you asked the question. Kyler Murray needs to go. He should have been gone a long time ago, and we know the reasons why he's still here because there was influences there. I'll just put it that way. Now
Yeah.
with with these changes in this past 2 years, and now third year with Gannon at the helm, and he's not a product of his and so forth. You know now they're going to be laying down the hammer. They want him to execute. They want him to make some change, be productive, be consistent. And that's what I want to see. If I don't see any of that, out you go. If the Cardinals
I'm
choose to stay with him, I will be very disappointed, and I don't know what else might happen.
I'm right there. I'm right there with you. For me, success would be push for the playoffs, into the playoffs. If you happen to lose a first round game, at least you got there. If you won one, that's a bonus for me. If you get the divisional weekend, that would be so
Whew,
cool. And the NFC is not that hard of a gauntlet. I mean, we got a couple
it
divisions
isn't.
much stronger than the other, but that would be my, ceiling. I'm not thinking this is a Super Bowl team. Let's not even go there. But if they were to win a playoff game, get to the set next weekend, oh my God, great. If they were to fall short, say they got to 10-7, and there were just a bunch of other teams, like last year we had the NFC North was 14-2, 14 and
Yeah.
if
Oh my
we
gosh.
get to that point at 10-7, showing progress, I can delay my anger a little bit. If this team limps in at 9-8, 8-9, especially with those like a few of those, a couple of those 3 and 4 game losing streaks that we tend to go through, those are the
Mhm.
ones that just chaps my behind. Especially when you look at some of the losses that they have. You look at the schedule, there are certain teams like that's a win. That should not be a loss. And then they'll lose
Right.
that game and then go and beat somebody they're not supposed to. And I'm like, you can't look. So
Yeah.
for me, it's the up and down roller coaster. We get the roller coaster, we come cruising in at 8-9. It's time either for Monty and Gannon and Petzing for them to start freshening up those resumes, or they need to do something with one Kyler Murray. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I don't want none of this roller coaster season. Like, give me, you're gonna have
Nah,
your ups and your downs. Granted, yes, that's gonna happen. But those roller coaster seasons or roller coaster games, which Kyler Murray's known for, I don't want to
known
see any of
for it.
that.
Yeah.
I'll give you the first two games of the season. Okay, You have to, your new team, new players, you're trying to get, all the kinks and crooks and everything out of the way. But past that, like game 3, I need to have you have your stuff all together and pretty, buttoned up and be ready to go. If not, then yeah, we need something to change.
We need to see some fluidity. Like I said, I'm very encouraged by what I'm seeing with the front office and the coaching staff. They've changed the
Same.
kind of the culture and everything within the building. It's just that how far can that go? At some point, we need to either start seeing wins, or it's like, what's all the point of making sure guys are accountable and early for meetings and this and that, and they're not eating in meetings if you're constantly coming up short on the field. So it'd be nice to see them put some string of wins together and take advantage of the fact that maybe San Fran and Seattle are still trying to figure it out. And let's go battle with these Rams for, the division title. So we'll see, though.
Yeah, I'll be definitely paying attention more this season than I have before in during the in the off season, the practices and so forth, what's happening. And I would love to see them practice out there. And it doesn't, yes, okay, some of those are not mandatory, but I want you players showing up. I want you, star quarterback, showing up, being there, being the leader, pushing these players and
Yeah.
seeing what you have to play with or you have to work with and helping them make better, want to be better. And hey, like you said, get more practices in there because now you're sore for 3 days, you can't do anything, then you can't practice. No, if you have to bring those 2 a days or make your guys go out and still practice, do what they have to do. Even if they're hurting, they can barely move. I do that when I go to the gym and my trainer works me to no end. I'm sore
Yeah.
and I do 2 a days. I still do it and I still show up. What's your excuse? I don't know.
A lot of times too with an NFL team, a lot of guys on the team take their lead from the supposed leader of the team. And I remember when I was in Atlanta with the Falcons during my Super Bowl year run, we had Chris Chandler, who was veteran journeyman, but he was a
Oh,
wise guy. We also had Jesse Tuggle on the defensive side of the ball. And when those guys said something, everybody shut up and listen. And that's what I'd like to see with Kyler. When he's got something to say, everybody, and not just because he has to say it, because we all know sometimes you get the eye rolls and stuff like that. I want him to earn the respect of every guy on that roster, every coach in that building, and
mhm.
take this and make it happen. We're rooting for him because he's here with us. The problem is we've seen this show a few times, Joe, and it always ends the same. I'm tired of the same. I'm tired of watching the same movie and getting the same ending. Where is
Feel like
there a direct?
we're living Groundhog Day, the movie.
Yeah, Groundhog's Day. Yeah. So like you said, you brought it up. 5 years without getting into the playoffs. Others have suffered longer than us, but doggone it, I'm tired of suffering out here. Let's get it done.
I want another run to the Super Bowl, and I want the Arizona Cardinals to win that Super Bowl and not have a fluke like last time, which I won't get into, and I won't get into the other thing you mentioned about Kyler Murray. But then it's just gonna get me upset. But I want to see some productivity, fluidity, and I want to see some wins. Dang it!
There you go. Spoken like a true fan. We got to get them. So, like I said, all we can do. The sad part is all the ingredients of the cake have been. I would say 90, 85, 90% of the ingredients have been mixed in the bowl. All we can do now is keep peeking at the oven. You can't open it up because you're going to slow the cook. All we can do is keep peeking in the little glass thing with the light on to see
Yeah,
how it's coming along. And that means we got a long way to go because we got to get to
painfully.
September for. Yeah, so we just got to keep peeking in through that little window and seeing how it's being baked and coming along, and eventually, hopefully, we have some good cake to eat.
Can I do this? My mom yells at me when I do it, or when she was teaching me how to bake when I was a young little one. But crack just a little bit of the oven or door open, just like a little crevice, and then just like poke inside and see what we have.
You letting the
No,
air out. You letting the heat out. No,
that's what
quit
you would
opening that
say.
doggone oven. You letting the heat out.
Oh gosh, it's worth a try. I guess yeah, just peeking through that window
If
through
I
this
was in
off
there, I'd be like, "Yo,
season, and
close that oven. You're letting all the good
yeah.
heat out."
Totally. You have no idea how many times I get yelled for that. And
Everybody
still to
wants
this
to
day.
reach in there and poke it. Yeah, you with your fingers on the
Uh,
top, and then you realize it's still kind of bubbly and all that kind of stuff. Or you're close enough, you want to put the toothpick in there. Nah, they said
yes.
30 minutes. Give it at least 27 and a half before you start opening that thing up.
Okay, fine. I'll wait. I'll be patient.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Patience makes for good cakes.
Exactly. Then, we get some deliciousness and some good product. So, guess you're right, Ed. So, I know we've talked football for a while, and I just have this is more on the other word that where I was telling you I'm going to go a little bit more on the gossip side of the football talk here. And I want to ask you, I don't know if you read about it, listened to it, saw it, whatever, about Peterson and Kyler Murray relationship. Did you happen to have any
I didn't.
um
I
thing
know
about it?
Patrick was coming back to sign the 1 day contract to
Retire with the
retire a
Cardinals.
Cardinal. I hadn't seen anything about those two.
All right. So here's what I read was that with Patrick Peterson retiring and everything, he happened to be on a podcast. I can't recall the name of the podcast at the moment, but they had asked him about Kyler Murray and the relationship, and there was none when he left the Arizona Cardinals. And to say the least, that was many of the players at one point with the Arizona Cardinals. Won't go any deeper into that, but um has mentioned that he would like one to be there now. Kyler
Okay.
Murray responded kinda not in the best ways possible through social media, and saying, "Stop talking your nonsense. If you would wanted to, you would have already reached out," and so forth. And Patrick Peterson came out and said, in that podcast, from what I read, is that some of the things that we mentioned here, the locker room etiquette and standing up and being a leader and so forth, do you and with Kyler Murray's response, which didn't seem like he was for it or trying to make any attempt at, having a relationship there. I don't know. I don't. What's your take on this? What I don't know. I don't know what should Patrick Peterson do? Should Kyler Murray have responded differently? Give me your hot take on this.
That's a tricky one because you